All right, so when is Tim Geithner going to Goldman Sachs? I just love that thought. We're back with Loretta Doan, James Pethokoukis, Mark Walsh, and Steve Moore. Mark Walsh, okay, if the Geithner defense is so strong, where's President Obama? Well, we got it here. Let me tell you, here's how the White House handled this. I think we got a little full-screen quote from this Deputy Assistant Junior Clerk here. Kind of defends Geithner. Secretary Geithner has helped steer the American economy back from the brink and is now leading the effort on financial reform. Special Assistant to the Press Secretary, Jennifer Psaki. Now, I don't want to attack her, but she's the Special Assistant to the Deputy Undersecretary, Press Secretary. That is not exactly President Obama, Mark Walsh. If Geithner is so great and indispensable, why didn't President Obama come out immediately yesterday and or today to defend his Treasury man?
Well, maybe it's even more pathetic that I'm on the air defending him because I'm even below her. But let me suggest to you that there is something called loyalty in any White House, and I know Loretta and others will reflect that. Look, if he made a deal for Goldman on 100 cents on a dollar when Goldman may not have had the CDS obligations and challenges that they originally laid out, I would agree with you, Larry. There is a bit of a Tarp gate coming up. I think that's a bad trade and extremely unfortunate, number one. Number two, loyalty matters in this White House, and yeah, Obama probably should have said he's my guy until proven that he's a jerk. And point three, I think Timothy Geithner has yet to prove that he is incompetent in the job, and I think we're kind of piling on here. So let's look for reasons for somebody to resign and go to Goldman that are obvious. If that Tarpgate memo or that opinion comes out today, I think that probably will be a death knell for him. But right now, I'm loyal to him, and so is the White House, at least in the text and the announcement.
Well, it would be nice. I mean, Loretta, here's another one. All right, Loretta, you know politics. Where's Rahm Emanuel? Okay, the president doesn't say anything. Rahm Emanuel, the chief of staff, right, who called Geithner, 104 times, we learned, from one of these Freedom of Information Act things to straighten him out. Emanuel might want his job. Why isn't Emanuel lunging desperately out there to defend Tim Geithner? In fact, let me add to this list. There's Larry Summers. Why hasn't Larry Summers been out there? In other words, the third-ranking deputy undersecretary to the press secretary is the only voice we've heard from. Now,
Larry,
that ain't what I call a full-throated Geithner defense from the White House West Wing.
Larry, first of all, remember, failure is an orphan. The second thing you have to remember is that folks in the Obama administration, especially Rahm and especially the president, are coming off of what is a really humiliating and embarrassing trip overseas that the president has been on, where he's really weakened the perception of American power in the eyes of the world, if you ask me. So they don't want to come anywhere near anything that could possibly be construed as failure. But the other thing, Larry, and you know this well, this is the beginning of a holiday week. Most of the senior folks in government, they've actually taken off. So it's not that surprising that you've got someone 3 levels down issuing the press statement.
No, I don't believe that for 1 minute. They know how to listen. These guys know how to get out Friday night. They put out all their dirty laundry on Friday night, which is tried and true in politics. But nowadays, with the cable cycle and the radio, I'm going to do it on ABC Radio tomorrow. I want to do a public service and keep this Geithner story alive. You know, first of all, let me get Steve Moore. The Tarpgate may be tough enough. Why did Geithner give Goldman Sachs 100 cents on the dollar? Maybe to buy himself a partnership, as Henry Blodgett is suggesting, Steve Moore. But my biggest gripe against that, or maybe my second biggest gripe, is Geithner has failed to stabilize the value of the dollar. And he doesn't do that. I mean, so in other words, I don't have to go and ask who gets credit for what. On his watch, the dollar is hemorrhaging, Steve Moore. Why is anyone talking about that?
Well, that's a really good point. You know, I always say, Larry, it's not so disturbing to me that the dollar is falling. It's more disturbing to me that nobody in Washington seems to care that the dollar is falling. You know, we are in a crisis with the dollar right now, and I don't hear from Ben Bernanke. I don't hear from Tim Geithner. I don't hear from President Obama anything but kind of lip service to the idea of putting strength into the dollar. They've got to start watching the Kudlow show and understand that King Dollar is the key to a recovery. And so I agree with you. I think there's a problem. One thing on Goldman Sachs, you know, it is interesting to me, isn't it, that over the last year, every decision that has been made, and I'm not a conspiratorialist, but almost every financial decision that has been made with bailouts, the big winner in all this keeps being Goldman Sachs. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Tim Geithner, it's a revolving door. It's an incestuous
Well, that's what I'm
relationship
saying.
between the Treasury and Goldman.
That's why Henry Blodgett's cluster stock point is worth considering. Jimmy Pethokoukis, let me ask you, A, is there going to be a Tarpgate investigation of this AIG scandal where Geithner gave them 100 cents on the dollar to Goldman Sachs? And B, Jimmy, did you see the story in the Wall Street Journal? The Goldman Sachs investors are furious.
That's right.
They're taking all the money in bonuses instead of earnings and dividends. I mean, that adds another thing.
That's right.
That's right. Listen, whether there's a Tarpgate investigation, and wait till more Wall Street bonuses come out in the first quarter. It is anything go time in Congress right now, whether it's investigations, transaction taxes, breaking up the banks. They're panicky about this situation. You know, Wall Street's unpopular, getting more unpopular. And it's going to be Katie bar the door time.
All right, let me ask you. Let me do a whip around. I want to do. We're running out of time. I'm going to put a date on this. By January 30th, 2010, it's not so far from now, will Tim Geithner still be Treasury Secretary? It's a yes or no. Mark Walsh.
Yes.
Larita.
No.
Jimmy.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes, but Larry Summers sure wants his job.
Ah, yes. Yes to that as well.
You guys are great. Larita Doan, thank you. Jimmy P., Mark Walsh. Steve's going to do a little Fed watching for us in a few minutes.